Episode 3 of the Fine Carry podcast is here. We're wrapping it up today, and so if you missed any, I'd encourage you to go back, watch episode 1 and 2. But today, I get to welcome some very special guests. If you're around City, you probably won't know these faces, so let me introduce you to them. I'm joined today by Avon and Kanya Middleton. You guys actually are a part of God First Fourways, and so there's lots of people who may know you, may not. But as we dive into our conversation, we're actually on the front end of your guys' preach that's coming this Sunday. So for most people watching this, it means you're going to be watching this after Sunday. But it's weird. This is the glory of podcast and digital life. But Avon, Kanya, give us a 30-second. Who are you? What do you do? What should we know about you guys? Kanya, you can start.
All right, ladies first, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a mother of 3. I homeschool my kids, and I run a talent agency called Stone Culture. And basically what that is I represent all faces, shapes and sizes, races and religions, and I help them to get onto TV. So very much dealing with people a lot. That's my job.
Amazing. Avon, give us the 30-second.
I am Avon, husband to Kanya, the entrepreneur, the mom, the mother of 3. I'm a father of 3.
That you know of?
Yeah,
Hey.
I'm a father of 3 with this amazing woman. I am the founder of 2 businesses. One is Clipping Point Media. We're an agency, an ad agency. We've been running for 9 years now, and I also run Top Gear South Africa, automotive publication. More recent acquisition, we got that about 2 years ago. So yeah, kind of wear 2 hats.
It's amazing. We actually have a connection that goes way back when, being a part of what is now City Youth, but like 8-9 years ago was called Youth Ministry of God First Church back in the day. So we go way back. But I'd love to have this conversation with you guys, being a part of this Hope Platform series where we're talking about these different platforms that God gives us where we can actually bring hope. And obviously you guys are working in creative and media spaces, whether that's in publication or in talent or, TV, all these types of very cool things. And it's a different type of industry, I think. But maybe give us a little bit of an idea of your unique take on what it's like being a part of those spaces. What makes them unique? There's probably a lot of hopelessness that you do see in some of those. But let us know what you guys are thinking and kind of how you shape that in your mind just around as a platform.
You go first.
So I've been in the media space pretty much since I was 18. In fact, probably 16, because I did drama in high school. I was the only kid in high school doing drama. And so I guess kind of started there and then went into film school where in Johannesburg, that is, and I met a whole bunch of very interesting people. As Kanya said, we work in a space of people. What we do is we tell stories, we communicate to people. Ultimately, everything we do is about an audience. So working in advertising, really, you're trying to understand people, you're trying to understand audiences and markets, and you're trying to speak to them in a specific kind of way. And then, of course, in a publishing sort of realm, it's a similar thing, just you're doing it in a different way. So, yeah, ultimately we've always just been about storytelling. But the thing with we're in a creative space, and the thing with creators is that there's quite a lot of, I guess, there's quite a lot of self-promotion. There's quite a lot of ideas, and you deal with people that they live in their own world. I mean, that's really the best way to say it. Particularly, you're really genius creatives. They live in their own worlds because they're paid to create worlds for other people. And sometimes there's people that just believe or think on a very different level to you. They just live in a different place. There are those who are happy to sit in a dark room behind a computer, and that's where they're happiest. And then there are those who live in a space where they know everything and they believe they should be teaching and telling you and me what the world is and what the world looks like. Highly intelligent, highly, sometimes very strange people, if I can say that.
That's not you.
No, well, maybe some people think that is me. But yeah, just very strong characters, because you're dealing with, as I say, people that are paid to create the worlds that we see on TV and newspapers and magazines and digital sort of scenarios. So yeah, quite interesting.
Kanya, how does it play out for you in a slightly different space, but
Yeah.
definitely working with creatives and those who are in that?
So what's very interesting with being a talent manager, when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with all aspects of the person. It's really also about managing identity, which is a big thing for me. When I started Stone Culture, in fact, my background's not in TV and film. Avon studied it. He went to AFTA. I went and did environmental studies, got a master's in it, did corporate for 8 years, got retrenched, and then said, wait a minute, what do I want to do that's going to be full of passion, that's going to have God first, and that's going to change lives? So I think I start there because that changes how I deal with the people who I work with. Stone Culture was started with just myself. That was 6 years ago. And coming into people's spaces, I really felt I was called to love, even the hardest. And I truly feel that God calls the people who come to my agency and even the clients. And it's a real partnership that isn't always easy. But I truly feel that my role is to help people see what God sees in them. Sometimes they don't even know it yet. So it's almost like this journey of identity with them, because I'm not dealing with the superstars. I'm dealing with the everyday mom who never thought about being on TV, and I'm saying, you can, you will, because I did.
Yeah.
And all walks of life. So, and loving them through it, I think that's a big thing for me. And yeah, I don't know if I answered that question right, but.
No, you definitely did. I think I love also hearing about this because, I think specifically in like creative and media space, there's always this like clash of value systems that generally does happen and jump in, which I'm sure, at a macro level, you guys are going to experience, and then it comes out in all these little microcosm moments.
Yeah.
But what's it like when you are dealing with people who maybe there's a different value system in terms of how they value themselves or what they value in the world or value in a project, or and when those things clash, how do you kind of deal with those clashes?
I think I've had more clashes than Avon. I think, just in terms of the number of people that I've dealt with, and it's been also a journey for myself in terms of understanding the world and the people around us. We are a Christian-based agency, and our values are Christian-based. But what I believe is God has called me to love all. So we know in the Bible, Jesus was dealing with those who were less in terms of people who didn't want to associate with. Jesus loved even the ones that people weren't loving. And I really felt that that's what I was called to do. So whether you are Christian or you're not, it doesn't mean you can't be loved. And you have to just shine God's light on them through it all. I've had some really tough situations where, it is conflicting with my value system, but kind of giving and sharing wisdom in those spaces. And then on the creative side, for ads and TV, not everyone is wanting to hear Jesus shouted through the microphone. I've often had it where it's like, okay, great. Can we do that again? Just without
The Jesus part.
And that's hard. That's so hard. But I've also gone, God, you called me in this space. I've said it. I'm not leaving you out. I've said it. How it gets edited, how it gets shared is part of the creative agency's side of things. But I've been called to share your light in these spaces and just sticking by that.
Avon, how's it played out for you?
Sure. So for us, it's been a journey. I think. Let me start there. I think there was a point in right in the beginning where there was this divide between myself as a Christian, and then kind of when I went to work, whatever work looked like at the time, I kind of dialed it down a bit, and I think that's a journey that we all walk. But I think in the last, 8 years, essentially, the way I would explain it is I've become a bit more authentic. And essentially what that means is that I wear who I am on my sleeve, on my heart. It's through what I say, it's through what I do. So if you meet me or start to work with me, it's very likely that within a few minutes or hours you'll know that I'm a Christian. Not because I go, hey, I'm a Christian, but because it's in my language, it's in how I speak, it's in how I act, and it informs a lot of my decisions. So what's been interesting for me recently is I have had to work with people who are either strongly atheist or people who have been burnt by church in some way, shape or form, and so therefore really, really are against church or anything like it, or religion. And then people who are of another religion and very strongly of that religion. And what's been amazing, as Kanya said, is I don't treat anybody differently. And people have seen that. I treat you with the same level of respect and love, as Kanya says, and I work with you in the same way. And what's been interesting is through that, I can tell you in the last, say, 2 years, I've had more conversations with non-Christians about my faith than probably in 10 years prior to that. Because people are open to saying, well, this guy's authentically Christian. It is who he is. I'm not, but I'm comfortable because of the relationship. I'm comfortable to have these conversations with him. And none of them have actually been tough, like in the sense of relationships have been broken, or we've shouted at each other, or how they say never talk about religion with others, or never argue about religion. No, it's never been that. We actually are very robust, very wholesome. I don't know if that's the greatest word, but we have these good conversations, and I think that's a good thing. So really, for me, it's really just been, this is who I am. It's in my actions, it's in my speech, it's in everything that I do. And you learn a lot about other people's views and beliefs and belief systems when you approach things like that.
I think it's come out a lot throughout the different episodes in the podcast, but obviously these are the platforms that God has given you, and then you're in that space where you're quite aware, hey, I'm representing a value system. Hey, I'm going to have these conversations. There's going to be conduct people will see, things people will directly hear, and to manage and navigate that well is probably the tension we have to hold. But for the person on the front end of the journey, someone who's maybe listening right now, who is asking that question of like, cool, I don't even know what the platform is. I don't even know what the opportunity could be, or what I maybe have a desire in my heart. Just as you guys have walked out where maybe, yes, your plan wasn't to get into film and TV. That was not even something you studied, or you can tell us the story about Top Gear. Like, did you really plan that was always going to be a thing? No. So how do we manage that on the front end when we perhaps have a desire, or sometimes God brings something into it and he's got a whole different plan to what we were thinking? Because I think a lot of people are in that space going, I don't even know what the platform is, let alone how to deal in that. Yeah. Both have to be a conversation I think we have. Yeah. So I don't know who wants to go first, but you guys can jump in.
So let me go. So I think first of all, my view is the platform is whatever place you're in. I think a lot of the time, as you said, we always have these plans about what we have our own plans where we go, okay, this is what we want to do and this is what we want to achieve, and whatever. And maybe for some, you don't quite know how you're going to get there. Maybe for some, you do get there. But as we know, God has his plans, and God's plans are sovereign. And God does what he does and he uses you in whatever way, shape, or form he deems fit. So if I can just, whether you're unemployed or whether you're in between jobs or you've just been retrenched or whatever the case is, that's your platform. Ultimately, the platform is wherever you meet with God's people and with people. That's the way I see it. So for us, I've been very fortunate, I suppose, in the sense that I've always kind of known what I wanted to do. Really always. Like, I'd say from 15, I knew that I would be in a media entertainment space of some sort. And I realized later that that's quite a fortunate position to be in. Obviously, at the time, I was just like, oh, this is normal. Yeah, we all know what we want to do, whatever, cool. But I've always known, I could tell you that I was going to work in the car space when I was probably 13. I knew that I would own a car magazine one day, or I wanted to own a car magazine one day. As to when and how and where that happened, I didn't quite know, but I knew that's the space that I wanted to be in. And if you look at my career, all the little things that I've done, working in entertainment, working in TV, working in radio, it all has had a hand in getting to me where I am today. And now my platform, some might say, well, you have a platform, you have this, you have these businesses, but actually the platform is really who I'm with. So I'll give you an example. So sometimes God is using you to bring hope. You don't even know it. Mm-hmm. So one of the guys that I hired a very long time ago now, I hired a guy, and I remember, I just went through the process. I interviewed a couple guys because this is how we do things. We prayed about it, and we hired a guy. Cool. And then he worked for us for 5 years, and, he's a cool guy. What I didn't know is eventually he went on and he did other work, and he works for another company at the moment. But what I didn't know is very much later, I don't know how, 4 or 5 years later, we had a conversation when he had left us, and he said, you don't know this, but the day you called me to tell me that I was getting the job, I was lying on my bed contemplating if this life was worth it. Okay, so we just go, what? You're just shocked, right? But I think the learning is just walk in the path you are in. Do your work. I think sometimes the platform is just do your work. Do it well, do it with integrity, meet people where they're at, and focus on what you do, because God's using that. And then, and I'm sure Kanya will talk about this, and then there are things that God will call you to specifically. Maybe people, maybe he'll put people on your heart, and he does incredible work through that. But I think working from a place that says, I am put in a place of leadership, I am put in front of people, treat people with love and respect and dignity and all these things, and just do your work, because in doing your work, God's already bringing hope to people. And I think that's sometimes what we forget. The fact that we pay people salaries, for many people, that's hope, to many. The fact that we pray before our big meetings. Some people have laughed at us. They go, oh, are you serious? We praying? I go, yeah. And we stand and we pray. And then only, weeks, months later, people go, I'm really glad you prayed, because I'm also a Christian, and I just felt like a bit awkward that maybe we shouldn't be praying in front of all these people. So, and we don't. It's not stuff we conjure up and go. It's we just pray because that's who we are, and we believe in this God, and He's given us this platform, so we just carry on with it. But I think the learning is God's doing it. He's doing it anyway.
Kanya, what does it look like for you?
So one, dissecting your heart is a big thing. Understanding what's going on inside. So every season that we're in, I really feel that God is speaking. And sometimes His voice is loud and clear, and sometimes it's very, very soft, but He is always speaking. He's never silent. And so, unlike Avon, who knew what he wanted to do at the age of 15, I was the lost corp I didn't even know what I was studying. I studied geography. I didn't even know why I was doing it. I went even to the master's level and even got the degree, and it was just like, I still don't know what I'm doing. And then I went into corporate and climbed up this ladder and reached the top and still didn't know what I was doing. And when I got retrenched, God really showed me what I was worshiping. And He told me, He said, you're worshiping your career. I have more for you. Do you believe it? And I didn't think I was worshiping my career until He was just like, I'm going to take this away, and let's see what happens. And I freaked out. I went I got depressed. It was the darkest space. I was pregnant with our third child. And that was probably one of the darkest seasons we've been through as a married couple. And so I say this because there's someone right now that is in a dark space and that's hit rock bottom and doesn't believe that there could be anything good that's coming out of the circumstance that's around them. And I'm living proof to say he is right there in that dark space. He's right there and he's saying, I have more for you. So filter through what's going on here. Mm-hmm. And when he took it away, I realized, I was just like, whoa, I didn't know I could be in that dark space ever. I didn't know that I was always a joyful person. And even for Avon to see me depressed was just like, I actually used to think people who are depressed, I'm like, just get up and go. Like, what's going on? Like, until it's you that is experiencing it. And so when I had that, in that dark space, I realized that, okay, God has something more. And he actually gave me verses and he spoke to me in those dark spaces. And stone culture was one of them. And why it's called stone culture is because I never wanted to forget. I said, I didn't know what I was going to do next. Avon came up with the name. And I was just like, God spoke through you, babe. He spoke through you. Stone culture it is. Stone, solid rock, God, firm foundation, culture in the business.
Boom.
Mm-hmm. Here, let's go. I didn't know whether I was going to be studying rocks or jumping in front of a camera. And that's how it started. And that was 6 years ago. And stone culture has been the vessel that God has given me to shine his light through people that I never thought of or imagined. And my talent know me that I've prayed through them, not just for them to get a job, but even in their dark spaces, because I've known what it was like. I'm like, no. Do not give up now. You can't be turning your back. You're called for such a time as this. God's heard your prayers. And lo and behold, I wish I could give their testimonies of how their lives have turned around. And it has given hope in spaces that I never thought of that I could do. But God has done it all, really.
You know, we talk about, and we speak about it a lot, obviously being City Hope Church means hope kind of matters a bit to us. But we talk about, you know, hope in the world sense is, you know, we're just kind of hoping it's going to happen. It's kind of flimsy, but the hope we have is different. When we understand hope's a person, it's Jesus, it's solid, it's rock, it's there. It's not gonna.
It's real. Yeah.
And we have this eternal hope in our future. And so I want to turn your attention to a little bit towards the future. Now that we've got to hear a bit about your past and where God's brought you through, what are some of the hopes you guys have for the future, in whatever spaces that might look like, and whatever it might be? I'm going to just broad stroke it, put it out there, because I think it's so important to not forget what God's done in the past, not to forget the journey, have conversations like this, but at the same time to also be articulating, hey, this is a hope we've got for the future, and God's going to do something here that's ahead of us now. Yeah. And I know you guys will be thinking about that space as well. So tell us about the future, what the hope is there.
So we all have our own, as I said, plans and ideas. And for me, both of our businesses, but certainly in our business, I want our businesses to be places where when people look at these businesses, they realize, A, what's possible, because we are a black-owned company, predominantly black staff. And so through the journey, and this again is something that I didn't plan for this. I didn't design it like this. God did. But through the journey, I've seen what having a black team has done for many, many black up-and-coming journalists, media people, entrepreneurs, production guys. We've had so many people just say, wow, guys, what you guys are doing is amazing. Wow, guys, you have no idea what you're doing, for people like us. Wow, guys, you're showing us what's possible. Now, I'll be honest, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing what I can, and as is my partner, we see it on quite a surface level most of the time. But I know that God's doing a work that is way, way, way beyond me. And we live in a country where, particularly in a in a black context, there's still so much anger, still so much pain, still so much hopelessness, particularly for black people who just go, well, I'm black and I don't have all the opportunities and I don't have a chance, and all these things. And so already, without me even thinking about it, God's already doing stuff which is way above me. So what my hope is for the future is that Clipping Point and the team would be a picture that brings hope, not just in a kind of career sense, but also in a sense of value, giving people real value for who they are. And ultimately, what I want people to be able to know is that, well, it's actually God who did that. It's not me or my partner or Top Gear or, because I think sometimes we can just associate stuff to, as I say, very surface level stuff. But really, it's God who's doing this stuff. It's not me. I mean, I've had people tell me stuff that I just go, wow, I had no idea that a simple act that we might have done had such an impact on someone. So, I mean, the one story, and this is, again, in South Africa, where we live in a world of, every day we talk about corruption. Every day we talk about, electricity and load shedding and, all these topical issues and politics and crime and all this kind of stuff. Very recently, someone said, I really admire the fact that you guys work with integrity. And so, what is that? Well, nothing's ever dodgy. And for some people, I'm like, well, isn't that normal? No, we work in a context where that's not normal. And just through running our business in what we think is a normal way, people are going, wow, that's different. And again, I take no credit. It's all God. And for me, if my businesses and what we do can shine a light on Jesus and the hope that he's brought me and the hope that he brings many, well, then that's my vision. That's my goal, is that we bring hope to the hopeless in how God uses us. Because ultimately, we're all people, God's doing what he does with us.
Kanya, what does it look like for you?
So, I think everyone knows this. I never want to box God or put him in a box. I can say, okay, so this is where you've put me, and this is where you're going to fit in, So, in saying that, it's unlimited what God can do through you, and through your network. And I've seen how, and I say this because it's so, I've seen how he moves. He's a miracle working God. He moves in ways we cannot see and we can't actually understand. We cannot comprehend his greatness. And so the future is Christ. And so the future is far bigger than we can ever think of or imagine. And so how does that look like now? And I think often we limit him to what we have now. And I say don't. Operate with the hope and the knowledge that your God is a God who loves you and he is using you in ways you don't even know. And so and I often get blown away when I stop relying on me, when I stop relying on my limited knowledge, or when I rely on him, it's a game changer. He shifts things, he opens up doors, he just moves, and he gives us the resources, the people, the skills that are beyond what it actually never came from me or them. It's actually God who works, and that's for me big. So the future's big.
I've really, really loved our conversation, and I want to thank you guys. We really thank you for being a part of the series. Thank you for sharing your story. I know it's going to bring a lot of hope to a lot of people, and I hope you've enjoyed the series with us. I hope you've started to ask that question of God, what is the platform you've given me? Realize that there's a platform. It's not just in the future, it's right now. You have it. He gives us spaces, places, relationships. That space is where we can cultivate hope. And so I really do hope that this has spoken to you. Hey, it could speak to someone else as well. And so now why not share it? Now that you're here on the channel, why not make sure you subscribe so you catch up with everything that we do? You can watch the rest of the Find, Carry, Bring podcast right here, episode 1, 2, and we're done with episode 3. Avon, Kanya, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much,
Have a
Duncan.
great one.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
It's
God
a wrap.
bless.